between Paris and Niamey continue to mount as officials in Niger push for France's ambassador to be expelled from the country. This letter, obtained by AFP, was sent to the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs on Tuesday and says that Ambassador Sylvain Ité has been stripped of diplomatic immunity, as well as ordering police to expel him from the country. On Friday, the authorities gave Ité 48 hours to leave Niger, a deadline that was rejected by Paris, who don't recognise the new government that was installed after a military coup last month. Earlier this week, French President Emmanuel Macron praised the ambassador, stressing that he would remain in office. On Thursday, a spokesman for the French army announced that Paris is ready to act in order to protect their diplomatic rights in Niger.
The French military forces are ready to respond to any upturn in tension that could harm French diplomatic and military premises in Niger.
Supporters of the coup continue to demonstrate in front of the French military base in Niamey. There are calls for a march next Saturday, followed by a sit-in until the 1,500 troops stationed in the capital leave for good.
Welcome to my channel. So we are still on African crisis. We're having so many coups of late that even the world is shocked. It's like you're having coups every month or every week. So I can say it's a very exciting time to be an African and not very exciting to be a Frenchman. So today we shall look at how France is out of touch, how France and the West are out of touch with the changes happening in Africa and even the world. So just last week, there was a BRICS summit that shows that the world is changing in terms of economy and trade. And Macron, the French president, tried to apply to be invited, but he was rejected. That also shows how out of touch he is with the sensibilities of BRICS members and other third world countries. Because as a French president, how can he not realize that the world is looking for other alternative to the Western-controlled economic system, of which France is in the forefront? So France is a former colonial master, one of the biggest, together with Britain. And even after giving African countries independence, they are still controlling the African resources. So currently, the mood on the ground in Africa is that African countries have seen that the West is benefiting unfairly from African resources. And even the sentiments at the BRICS summit, people like Ramaphosa and others, Zambian president, they voice the African sentiments that Africa wants to refine their own minerals, not to sell soil and ores which are just raw at a cheap price. That's a sentiment. That's why African people are celebrating the coups which are happening in Niger, Burkina Faso, and then latest Gabon. But France is still out of touch with that reality. So they're insisting that they don't recognize the Niger junta leadership, and they told the ambassador in Niger to remain, even after Niger had expelled him. Actually, by this ambassador staying in Niger, even after being expelled by the authority, that's a violation of the UN Charter, whereby an envoy is supposed to leave after being expelled. So currently, I know France supports the ousted Niger president Bazoum, but in reality, it is the military junta who are in power. And that's the reality. So as per the UN Charter, an envoy or ambassador who is expelled is supposed to leave. So even the French President Macron telling him to stay, that's a clear violation of the UN Charter, and it shows how arrogant France is and how out of touch they are. So even now they're still insisting that Bazoum should be reinstated, but they're forgetting that the Niger people really celebrated. They're celebrating the coup. So there's no way that France can claim that they know Niger more than the people. Because a country is the people. The people support the coup. So what is France and ECOWAS and AU making noise about? It shows that Bazoum doesn't have the people's support. And this shows that France is out of touch. Of course, France and the West, they're the ones who are controlling ECOWAS and AU like puppets. So France and the West are out of touch, that Africans have woken up. And Africans see France and the West as enemies. That's why in these Niger's celebrations in the streets, as you can see, the Niger people, they are waving the Russian flags as opposed to French flags. So how can France and the West not see that the ground has changed? So by France insisting that the ambassador stays in Niger, in clear violation of the Niger junta's authority, they have dared Niger military to now issue an expulsion. Niger military has annulled the diplomatic immunity of the French ambassador, and they have ordered the police to expel him by force. So here now, France has now pushed themselves in a corner, because they dared a country of Africa, and that country has responded in kind. So we shall see whether France will invade Niger, because ECOWAS has so far backtracked, because they have seen that the ground in Niger, people support the junta, and then neighboring states like Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, even Algeria, they are promised to support Niger if they're invaded. That's why ECOWAS has taken a backseat. So because France decided to throw a gamble to force the ambassador to stay in Niger, but now Niger junta has expelled him by force, what will France do? That shows how serious lack of tactics the France arrogance has blinded them. So they're out of touch with African people's sentiments about the West, and they are making poor strategies in Niger. While they're making these mistakes, Gabon also has seen a coup. Gabon had an election whereby it was very disputed. Ali Bongo, who is a dynasty, his father was a president for almost 50 years. He has taken over, ruled for 14 years, very corrupt, has rigged the election, allegedly. So, he was overthrown yesterday early morning. Gabon too was a French colony. And Gabon has got a very small population, 2 million people, and it has abundant oil reserves, one of Africa's leading oil producing countries. But still, the country of 2 million, people are still very poor. But this dynasty leadership, Ali Bongo and even his father Omar Bongo, they are stinking rich. So again, he was overthrown. And again, France and AU and ECOWAS, they came with the usual condemnation of the coup. They are demanding that democracy be restored. But now, which democracy? If the elections were rigged, the country is poor, and again, the people celebrated. People of Gabon, just like Niger, celebrated the coup. So here we find that Ali Bongo is pleading for people to help him. Even him is out of touch. And his security chief, Brigadier General Nguema, is one who has taken over. As you can see there, Nguema is with him in a form of picture. So French colonies are falling. Coups are happening in first Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali, now Gabon. So French is caught unawares by these coups. As you can see, people are celebrating. And you know, the people are the owners of the country. Even the military are celebrating in Gabon. Just like Niger before, just like Mali before, just like Burkina Faso before, just like Guinea, people celebrate. So in all these instances, France has been caught flat-foot, unawares. And even the West are still shocked. They don't know which other countries will have coups. And I suspect that many French colonies, former French colonies, will see coups. Because they're having the same issue being controlled by France, whereby France is manipulating some few leaders, giving them money, they're filthy rich, and those countries are rich with the resources, but the people are living in the poverty line, below the poverty line. So these countries are having the same problems. That's why when they're having these coups, people are celebrating. And France are still arrogantly insisting that they only recognize the ousted leaders, like Bazoum and even Ali Bongo. So they are so out of touch. France and the West are very much out of touch. So that's where the world is today. And even the French parliament, they warned, after the Niger coup, they warned their president, Macron, to take action on these African countries. Because if they all organize coup and throw away France authorities, it's like France as a country will suffer economically. So even those leaders in France, they are also out of touch. What action can they take? Because these are not their countries. These are African countries which are sovereign. So they're asking their leader, Macron, to invade this African country to stop these coups. But now you see, the people are celebrating. People of these countries are celebrating. What makes France to have the entitlement that they see these countries as their properties? So France is out of touch, seriously. And what I'm seeing is that in the future, in the coming days and weeks, they'll get more surprises. So they'd better wake up. Because the world is changing. The world is changing, and the world has always changed. Here's a picture of money which has been caught in suitcases in Ali Bongo's house. So the country is poor. The country has so much oil. I think it's the fourth largest oil producer in Africa. Only 2 million people, but they're very poor because most of the money is hidden in the houses and even banks and foreign accounts of these leaders. So this is a house owned by Ali Bongo in Libreville, capital of Gabon, where many suitcases of money were found there yesterday. So these are the kind of leaders which France supports. France is ordering that they should be reinstated. Does that really make sense? Can even the UN allow this? Is this what we call democracy? Now you understand why people of Niger, Gabon are celebrating when there's a coup. It's not that the people support military. It's because the people have suffered too much beyond the point of endurance. That's what the people are celebrating. So France should wake up. AU should wake up. ECOWAS should wake up. That things are changing on the ground in Africa and even the world. Things are changing in the world. So France is not the only power. France and the West are not the only powers that have not realized that the world is changing. So previously, the Roman Empire, which controlled Eastern Europe and even Western Europe, it was the most powerful empire in the days of Christ, with Emperor Augustus and others. It had its greatest power in 117 AD, as you can see in this picture here. This picture here. So even the Roman Empire, it was weakening, and the surrounding neighboring countries, those who are neighboring Roman Empire, they were getting more powerful. But Roman Empire leaders, even the military, they failed to understand and to get the intelligence. Just like France today, those Roman Empire emperors like Nero, they were out of touch. They never realized that the ground is changing and the empire is shrinking. Until it was too late when those who are called barbarians, those other neighboring tribes, invaded Rome and they sacked Rome. and Rome collapsed very fast and suddenly. After it collapsed, of course, Rome covered both Eastern Europe and even Western Europe. Eastern Europe became the Ottoman Empire, which was based in Turkey. And then the West, we had the Austro-Hungarian Empire, French Empire, and others. They were in the West. So Rome split into various smaller kingdoms. So the point is, the Roman Empire, at their height of their power, they were very powerful. But when they began to disintegrate, the Roman empires never realized. They remained arrogant until it was too late. And that's how the Roman Empire disintegrated. Rome fell. Rome was sacked. So also, the French Revolution, the 17th century there, 1780s, those French kings like King Louis and his wife Marie Antoinette, they were very arrogant. Because by them, they lived a life of opulence while people were hungry and suffering. They never realized that the people could overthrow them. They never realized that the power belongs to the people. People were saying that they lacked bread. Marie Antoinette told them to go and get cakes. So that kind of mentality is still today among the leaders of the West. France, England, Spain, the former colonial powers, they are still out of touch. They think that African countries are still asleep and can be controlled. So eventually, the Marie Antoinette and others, they face a very bad consequence. So when the Roman Empire split, on the eastern side, there was the Ottoman Empire, which was in Constantinople or Turkey. On the west, there was Austro-Hungarian Empire, among others. So Austro-Hungarian Empire, it was a very powerful empire before the First World War, even Ottoman Empire. All these empires after the First World War, they collapsed. In other words, empires have been collapsing. But wise leaders should always know to tell the times, that the times are changing. So after the First World War, Austro-Hungarian Empire and Ottoman Empire, they were on the same side. They were backing Germany. They were defeated. And the victors shared the spoils. That's how the war is done. So these two empires disintegrated, just like the Roman Empire earlier. And unfortunately, that's because their leaders failed to see the times. The times had changed. Just like today, France leaders, even those who are in England, they are failing to see the times, that the times are changing. The Western mainstream media, during the BRICS summit, they are still underestimating BRICS. And at that BRICS summit last week, the UN Secretary General Guterres said how the West should stop exploiting Africa. But now we find that these Western leaders like Macron, they are still living in denial. They are still believing that their power will be there forever. But now if Austro-Hungarian Empire was very powerful, it's no more today. Ottoman Empire was powerful, it is no more today. Roman Empire was powerful, it's no more today. Second World War came, America emerged as a superpower with the World Bank and IMF. But now BRICS is coming to counter American influence of World Bank and IMF. Wagner is coming in Africa to throw away France and other Western colonial influence in Africa. So if France are not able to observe this, if they remain out of touch, they may make a mistake to invade Niger. And you find that Niger has got allies. Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, even Algeria, and even Wagner will back Niger. So it's not possible for France to win that war. So because they're out of touch, they'll end up disintegrating, just like Austro-Hungary Empire, just like Ottoman Empire, and even Roman Empire, disintegrated because they failed to tell that the times had changed. So currently, the times have really changed. And the Western powers, starting with America, Britain, France, all of them, those who will survive in the economic changes brought by BRICS, and even the changes brought by the Africa waking up, those Western powers that will see the times and adjust, change their mindsets, they are the ones that will survive. Because trade will change. Africa is changing. And even African puppets like Tinubu, Western puppets like Tinubu, even Ruto and others who are sending Kenyan police to Haiti, those who will not change, even them, they'll face problems. So the world is changing, and leaders have to change with times. France has to change and realize that the ground in Africa has shifted. Africa has a strong Russian and even Chinese ally helping them. And we are foreseeing a future of many coups in Africa if our leaders remain stubborn. So that's where the world is today. It's a reality check for the arrogant Western powers, especially France and other former colonial powers. Those who will adjust to this change and recognize that Africa have woken up, they're the ones that will survive. Because Ramaphosa said that, and even Guinea leader Colonel Damboya, that Africa will stop selling raw materials, but they'll refine their raw materials in Africa and then sell them at a worthy price. So at this time, that's where we are as a continent and as a world. And that's my analysis for today. And I hope there'll be no invasion of Niger. I hope that the mediation, which is now being led by Algeria, will bear fruits. And they'll agree on some transition period to democracy, which will be agreeable by the Niger military leaders and even ECOWAS and AU. But France will know that Niger is not their property, so they have no power to want to influence Niger. Niger is not part of France. So it's up to Africa like AU, Algeria to lead that negotiation, and even ECOWAS with the Niger military and agree. And we hope there'll be no warfare. So that's my point for today. Let me see your comment in the comment section. Otherwise, thank you very much.